What would you do if the child every doctor had given up on suddenly stood up, and ran into the arms of a complete stranger? The most powerful female billionaire in the country watched in horror as her paralyzed daughter jumped out of her wheelchair during a glamorous charity gala. Guests gasped. Cameras stopped flashing. Security rushed forward. Then the little girl wrapped her arms around a humble single father and cried through happy tears, "Daddy, you finally came back." The billionaire's world shattered in an instant, because she had never seen that man before, but the secret hidden in his past was about to change all of their lives forever. The crystal chandeliers of the Grand Monarch Hotel bathed the ballroom in golden light. Politicians, celebrities, and business tycoons filled the room, all eager to celebrate the annual charity gala hosted by the country's youngest self-made billionaire, Victoria Hale. But despite the applause and flashing cameras, Victoria's attention never left the wheelchair beside her. Sitting quietly was her 8-year-old daughter, Emma. 3 years earlier, a devastating accident had left Emma unable to walk. The world's best surgeons had tried everything. Specialists from every continent had promised hope, but each visit ended with the same heartbreaking words. She may never walk again. Victoria had spent hundreds of millions searching for a miracle. She built hospitals, funded medical research, and donated fortunes to children's charities. Yet she couldn't save the one child who mattered most. As the orchestra played softly, Emma looked across the ballroom with unusual excitement. "Mom." Victoria smiled gently. "Yes, sweetheart. I think he's here." Victoria frowned. "Who?" Emma simply pointed toward the entrance. Standing there was a man in faded jeans, polished but inexpensive shoes, and a neatly pressed white shirt that had clearly been worn many times. Holding the hand of a cheerful little boy, he looked completely out of place among the tuxedos and designer gowns. His name was Daniel Carter. A widowed single father. A carpenter. A man who had spent years quietly rebuilding schools, churches, and community centers for almost no profit. He had been invited because one of the charity homes Victoria funded had secretly nominated him as their Volunteer of the Year. Daniel felt uncomfortable under the bright lights. He planned to collect the award, thank everyone politely, and leave. He never expected the little girl in the wheelchair to stare at him with tears filling her eyes. Suddenly, Emma stood up. The room gasped. Victoria's heart nearly stopped. One shaky step. Then another. Doctors froze. Guests whispered. The orchestra stopped playing. Before anyone could react, Emma began running across the marble floor. "Emma!" Victoria screamed. But the little girl wasn't falling. She was laughing. Running. Smiling brighter than she had in years. She threw herself into Daniel's arms. "Daddy!" The ballroom fell completely silent. Daniel looked utterly confused. He gently knelt. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I think you've mistaken me for someone else." Emma hugged him tighter. "No. I know your heartbeat." Victoria rushed over, her face pale. Security guards surrounded Daniel. "Step away from my daughter." Daniel slowly raised his hands. "I would never hurt her." Victoria's icy voice echoed across the ballroom. "Who are you?" Daniel answered quietly. "My name is Daniel Carter." She narrowed her eyes. "Have we met before?" Daniel looked at Emma. Then at Victoria. "I don't think so." But something in his expression suggested otherwise. Emma refused to let go. She kept repeating one sentence. I dreamed about him. Victoria didn't believe in miracles. She believed in evidence. The next morning, she ordered a complete background investigation on Daniel Carter. Every address. Every employer. Every financial record. Every photograph. What investigators discovered made no sense. Daniel had once served in an elite military rescue unit. After risking his life to save civilians during a disaster overseas, he disappeared from public records. Months later, his wife died while giving birth to their son. He never remarried. Never chased fame. Never accepted interviews. He simply raised his boy with honesty and kindness. No scandals. No debts. No lies. Only one mystery. Several years of his life were completely classified. Victoria became curious. Then suspicious. She invited Daniel to lunch under the excuse of thanking him for his volunteer work. As they talked, Emma laughed harder than she had in years. For the first time since her accident. She wasn't afraid. Daniel noticed her favorite foods before anyone mentioned them. He knew exactly how to calm her panic attacks. He even remembered songs that somehow comforted her. Victoria finally asked the question burning inside her. How do you know my daughter so well? Daniel became silent. Then he reached into his wallet. Inside was an old photograph. It showed a much younger Victoria standing outside a university hospital. Beside her was Daniel. Victoria's hands began shaking. She whispered, "This can't be real." Daniel nodded slowly. "We met 15 years ago." Victoria searched her memory. Then it returned like lightning. A rainy night. A terrible car crash. A young medical student trapped inside a burning vehicle. A brave stranger who broke the window and carried her to safety. She had lost consciousness before learning his name. Daniel smiled sadly. "You were unconscious. I left before anyone asked questions." Victoria looked back at the photograph. "You kept this, all these years?" Daniel nodded. "You once told me, if I survive, I'll spend my life helping people. You kept your promise." Tears filled Victoria's eyes. "But why didn't you ever contact me?" Daniel looked down. "Because you deserved your future. I didn't want anything from you." Emma quietly took both of their hands. "I think God brought you back." Neither adult could answer. But for the first time in years, hope replaced fear. Neither of them realized that someone else had been watching from the shadows. Someone connected to the accident that changed both of their lives. Someone who knew the truth about Emma's past. And intended to keep it buried forever. As the sun rose over the city, Victoria realized that true wealth had never been measured by billions in the bank, but by the people willing to sacrifice everything without asking for anything in return. Daniel's greatest secret wasn't that he had once been a hero, it was that he had quietly lived like one every single day. Emma's miracle wasn't simply that she walked again, it was that she reunited two broken hearts and restored a family that fate had torn apart. Sometimes, the greatest miracles don't happen in hospitals or boardrooms, they happen when love, forgiveness, and truth finally find their way home. And everyone who witnessed that unforgettable day walked away believing that some promises are never truly lost, they are simply waiting for the perfect moment to be fulfilled.